If you care about video games at all, then you can probably name most of the great consoles of the past years. The PlayStation 1 and 2, the Super Nintendo, the Genesis, the Atari 2600, the NES, and so on. These consoles seem like second nature at this point. They've always been there. Pretty much every kid that grew up in the US or Western Europe of the 90s remembers the golden age of gaming, when Nintendo and Sega threw it down in an epic console battle of the NES and Super Nintendo against the Genesis. That is what gaming in the 90s was. However, most people don't really think about what gaming in the 90s was like for people on the opposite end of the world. The 1990s were a pretty regular decade for the West, but for the East it was an age of political and economic turmoil. The Soviet Union has just collapsed, making Russia a newly created capitalist country whose newfound free market was unregulated, undiscovered yet by most Western brands and companies, and full of counterfeit and fake consumer goods. The same things were happening in many other ex-Eastern Bloc countries like Poland, Hungary, the Baltic states and more, who were only just beginning their new life devoid of the communist influence. Naturally, the gaming markets in these new capitalist countries was not a thing. Don't get me wrong, video games did exist in the Soviet Union, but these were mainly arcade machines. The console market did not exist in the USSR at all. However, when the Iron Curtain collapsed in 1991, certain smart individuals realized that they could make some good money by buying counterfeit consoles and pirated game cartridges from Asian countries, rebranding them and then selling them on the Russian markets. This was the birth of a console called Dendy. The fake NES that was so popular in Russia that it sold millions, had its own TV show, and even was sort of approved by Nintendo itself, despite giving them zero profit. In today's video, we're going to go over the history of the fake Russian console and test it out for ourselves. Yes, I've bought one specifically for this video. Yes, they're still making these. Anyway, join me in this video where we are going to learn the story behind Dendy, the fake Russian Nintendo console. The 1990s in Russia was a quite unique period of time. An incredible amount of people got very rich very quick by either seizing control of the country's resources and industries or creating some sort of business by basically reselling or copying foreign goods that were not yet available on the Russian markets. This is exactly what happened in the case of Dendy. The console was created in 1992 by an IT company called Steepler, founded in 1991 by a few Moscow computer science graduates. The company did all sorts of work, including creating Russian versions of Windows, as well as some government work. Steepler developed automated network systems for Russian banks and the State Duma. The company also became HP's official distributor in Russia, selling their laser printers. In 1992, Viktor Savyuk, a Moscow programmer and tech salesman, had learned about the existence of such a thing as the Nintendo Entertainment System, the popularity of which in the West struck him and left him with a question: why does nobody in Russia know about this or play this console? 1992 was also the time when the 8-bit era had already come to an end in the West, with the 16-bit Genesis and Super Nintendo being all the rage. During this time, a large new industry of counterfeit consoles had emerged in Taiwan. Many Taiwanese companies produced all kinds of Famicom replicas, as the console was outdated at that point and the hardware for it became dirt cheap. Savyuk had a brilliant idea of buying these consoles from Taiwan and selling them in Russia. He proposed the idea to a few IT companies, and Steepler was the one that got interested. Savyuk joined Steepler and started contacting various Taiwanese manufacturers with the offer of a partnership. The first company to respond and send Steepler a prototype was TXC, which manufactured a console called the Micro Genius, which was a complete replica of Nintendo's Famicom, which is what the NES was called in Japan. A few years down the line, these fake consoles became widespread in other developing countries, such as the nations of the Middle East, South America, Eastern Europe, and more. In Poland, Czechia, and Serbia, the Micro Genius was sold under the Pegasus brand. Savyuk also wanted to create a completely new brand and not just sell consoles under the Micro Genius name. As a result of brainstorming, the Steepler team came up with the name Dendy, choosing the happy-looking elephant as the console's mascot. Steepler came up with an advertising campaign, had a jingle created, and came up with a slogan: "Everybody's playing." Steepler ordered the first batch of 10,000 consoles and decided to sell them for about $80 each. The consoles bought from Taiwan only cost about $15 each, so the profits were supposed to be incredible. Steepler had partnered with a store located in the center of Moscow to sell the first batch of consoles in December. After a massive advertising campaign and due to the good timing of the upcoming New Year's holiday season, Dendy immediately became a hit. During the first sales day, the console made over 1 million rubles, which exceeded all expectations. The console sold well, but they did not sell well enough due to the high price of the system. It turns out that the Taiwanese manufacturer sold Steepler an older Famicom replica that was more expensive in production. The Russians in return started buying both the new cheaper replica and the older one, creating two different Dendy models on the Russian market, the cheaper Dendy Junior and the more expensive Dendy Classic, which was advertised as a more premium model. Basically, all I'm trying to say is that Microsoft and Sony with their Pro versions are stealing everything from Russia, you guys. This exact business move of creating a cheaper Dendy Junior model is what started the Dendy craze in Russia. The Dendy Junior started selling like hotcakes due to the lower price and became the most widespread iteration of the fake console in Russia to this day. In 1993, the profits from Dendy had reached tens of millions of dollars. Steepler had decided to promote the Dendy brand even further. The first step was the creation of a gaming magazine called Video As Dendy, which was pretty much essentially the Russian Nintendo Power. The name of the magazine was later changed to Veliki Drakon, and the magazine became quite successful and continued to be issued even when the Dendy brand itself had ceased to exist. I guess all this success can be attributed to the name change. I mean, what was that name about anyway? The second step to promote the Dendy brand was the creation of a TV show. A new show called Dendy, A New Reality was broadcasted on ORT, Russia's main and most popular TV channel at the time. Steepler was able to get their show to be broadcasted during prime time thanks to their connections in the television industry. The host of the show was also a perfect fit. Dendy, A New Reality was hosted by Sergei Suponyev, a now late Russian TV personality who had previously hosted massively popular kids shows and was adored by the Russian youth. As a result, when kids saw that Suponyev is hosting a TV show where he discusses, plays, and promotes video games and the Steepler brand, all of them immediately wanted to get themselves a Dendy console.
Водка плохо. Супер Нинтендо хорошо.
All of this made Dendy a smash hit in Russia, selling millions upon millions of consoles. The success of Steepler, of course, did not go unnoticed by Nintendo themselves. However, before we talk about how Steepler dealt with Nintendo, let's check out the console ourselves, shall we? You see guys, it's kinda hard to come by a classic Dendy nowadays. There are a ton of cheap Famicom replicas in pretty much every single computer store in Russia. These things are still being made and they come in all shapes and sizes. Some of them look like the Famicom, some of them look like the NES, some of them look like the Sega Genesis or even the PlayStation, and some of them just look like whatever. The controllers also come in all shapes and sizes, seemingly copying every single console in existence. Alright guys, we've seen where Dendy has been, now we're gonna take a look at where Dendy is headed. What I got right here is a beautiful legendary console called the Hemi 4. So yeah, this thing I have right here is not actually just a Famiclone, it's an advanced Famiclone because it also includes the hardware of the Genesis inside it and it can play both Genesis and NES games or Famicom games, which is insane. This console is basically plug and play, so you cannot actually insert any cartridges inside of it. However, this console has 350 pre-installed games, so apparently this console has 190 16-bit games and 160 8-bit games. This console costs $35 and it comes with a composite cable and two controllers, which are very Mega Drive looking. And the controllers actually have pretty good quality, I was surprised. The buttons actually feel pretty good to click and press on. God guys, this is such a Scott the Woz video right now, this is crazy. Wow guys, so this is literally what I'm doing now, I'm sitting in front of a TV on a couch with a retro console in my hand talking about retro video games. You know, I started out my entire YouTube life by watching AVGN, and I guess now it's finally coming back. It's coming full circle. So yeah guys, the thing is, yes, this is a modern invention, okay? This is not an OG sort of Dendy. It doesn't even look like it. Doesn't even look like a Famicom or anything. You see guys, I could have got one of these Micro Genius Famiclones, but those are much more limited, and this one actually plays 16-bit Genesis and Dendy or NES games. And as well, yeah, you know, I could have got the OG Dendy from the 90s, but they sell those for like $100, so no, I'm not getting that. In fact guys, this console I got, it's so not OG that it has a USB port and it also has a SD card port. Did you see that back in the NES? I don't think so. But yeah, let's turn this thing on and check out what it has to offer. Hemi 4.
the legendary console. Okay guys, here we are one entire day later, and only now I actually got this thing to work with my TV, because apparently my TV is way too modern to handle this retro shit, okay? Basically I had to go to the store to buy an adapter, and then I figured out that adapter doesn't fit to my TV, and I had to go and look at the combo of the deep depths of my house. This thing right now is literally connected through 2 adapters. I had to spend 1.5 days working on this to get this to work. This is the most effort I've ever put into my channel. You guys better appreciate this, okay?
So yeah, on the console you pretty much have 2 separate menus. This right here is the 8-bit menu for 8-bit games, and the library is pretty good. You have your classic games like Tetris, Super Mario Brothers, stuff like that. You have classic games like Contra, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and a lot of these games are actually in Russian. They're fully translated to Russian. Some of them, like Contra, are completely in Japanese. I don't know what the logic is here, but whatever. Then of course you have the classic Tanchiki or Tank Battle, which is a game that every Russian kid remembers. Even those that didn't have Dendys have played this game for sure. I have. So there's an entire separate 16-bit menu as well, in which you have a lot of classics like Aladdin, which actually is a really great game. Like, I expected to play this stuff for a little bit, but when I actually started playing, these games actually are pretty addicting, and I couldn't stop playing, even though I needed to record more stuff. Then of course you have the classic Sonic trilogy, which plays great, is a lot of fun. Sonic is a classic. Then you have stuff like the Road Rash trilogy, Test Drive 2, Battletoads and Double Dragon, Comic Zone, which actually, yeah, still plays really great. It's a really fun game. There's also actually some weird ones that I did not even expect. For example, Duke Nukem 3D on the Genesis, and it plays horribly, don't get me wrong, but it's there. And as well, you have the first Metal Gear on the NES, which is pretty cool. However, since this is a Dendy console with a lot of pirated stuff, I've noticed some really bizarre games on this. For example, guys, just check this out. Sonic the Hedgehog on the NES. Wow guys, yeah, I think that is the worst video game music I've ever heard in my entire life. The only thing that's worse is probably Desert Bus or something. It's just bizarre. I mean, it actually plays okay, but it looks terrible compared to the Genesis version, obviously, and the sounds are just unbearable to listen to. And you have similar weird stuff on the Genesis as well. For example, on the Genesis, under the title Super Mario Brothers, there's Super Mario World Genesis version. Yeah, I guess I missed out when that came out. It's the most bizarre thing of all time. Not only is it nothing like Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo, I think it's based on some other game completely, because in this game, I can't even jump on Goombas and stomp them. The only way you can kill Goombas, or not even Goombas, pretty much any mob in this game, is either by throwing crates or shooting fireballs. Since when does Mario do that? You can also like just jump through bricks, and you cannot stomp on Goombas. That I just cannot get over it. What kind of Mario game is this? But overall though, the game selection is actually pretty good. Like, if you want to get a console like this for yourself, of course I would advise you to get one where you can actually insert cartridges, because that actually gives you more opportunities. But in this one you can just pop in an SD card and basically play any game you downloaded on the internet. So yeah, it's pretty cool actually, and you know, this Hemi 4 console, yeah, it's definitely getting my Epic Gamer approval. Anyway, back to our Dendy history lesson. Like I mentioned earlier, the massive success of the Dendy console one day was sure to be noticed by Nintendo. After all, this Russian company was making insane money, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars here, by just selling fake Nintendo products. That cannot be legal, right? In 1994, the year during which Steepler's profits reached over $75 million, Savyuk got a surprising call from one of Steepler's foreign managers, saying that the heads of Nintendo of America want to talk to the creators of the fake Russian Famicom. Nintendo of America sent an official invite for Savyuk to come to the US for business negotiations. The meeting was arranged by the founder and then head of Nintendo of America, Minoru Arakawa, as well as the Nintendo chairman, Howard Lincoln. Funnily enough, these were the exact same people that bought the rights for Tetris from the Soviet game designer Alexei Pajitnov earlier in the 80s. The invite from Nintendo was a big deal, and Savyuk immediately flew out to Seattle for the meeting. The negotiations with Nintendo took over 2 days, and as a result of the business talks, Steepler became the official distributor of Super Nintendo consoles across the CIS countries. Not only did the Russian counterfeit sellers get a new opportunity to make some money, but Nintendo actually didn't seem to have much problem with Steepler selling the fake version of their console. According to Savyuk, Nintendo said that they had no issues with copyright infringement and asked for only one favor. Steepler can keep selling their Dendy consoles and sell Super Nintendos as long as they don't sell any consoles from Sega, specifically the Genesis, at the Steepler stores. This is actually super interesting. Nintendo could have easily ended Steepler's entire career with a huge lawsuit, but they decided to let it slide in order to create a possibility of officially entering the Russian console market. However, Steepler didn't do business with Nintendo for long. Nintendo wanted Steepler to sell the consoles in Russia for the same price as in the US or even cheaper, which brought Steepler barely any profit. Moreover, Nintendo would often not provide enough consoles and withhold the shipments, which led Steepler to give up on selling Super Nintendos and start selling Sega consoles at their stores. Sega did come to Russia officially around 1994 and sold their consoles without having anything to do with Steepler, so Steepler started essentially selling fake Mega Drives as well. In 1995, the era of the popularity of 8-bit consoles on the Russian market had practically come to an end. With Sega coming to Russia and the abundance of fake Mega Drives coming in from China, the Dendy console had become obsolete. Moreover, the first PlayStation also came out in 95, and by 96, Sony officially started selling the console in Russia, making the Mega Drive obsolete as well. By 1996, Steepler had become bankrupt. The company workers say that the main reason for the company's bankruptcy was not the death of Dendy, but the Russian government's shady actions. In 1995, Steepler was supposed to develop an automated computer network system for the Russian State Duma, but the company was pushed out of the governmental contract by the Russian Federal Agency of Government Communications and Information. During the period of time when two entities fought against each other for the tender of creating the system, Steepler employees faced threats. One of the company's top specialists was ran over by a car, and a few others were attacked. Afterwards, many governmental institutions that had signed contracts with Steepler suddenly decided to not work with the company any longer. The same exact thing happened with the oil company Steepler worked with, and by 1996, Steepler ran out of money. It's pretty easy to see what this looks like. A governmental institution that works in a similar line of work as Steepler decided to just destroy any competition, using threats, violence, and control over other governmental bodies in order to bring them down. Well, that's just Russia for you. You guys want to run a business over here? Don't. However, even after all of this, Steepler still did not close and continued to sell games and toys in a smaller network of shops. Finally, in 1998, the company was closed. And that pretty much concludes the story of the Dendy console. This was truly a product that couldn't have existed in any other country than Russia or the developing countries of the Eastern Europe at that time. The unregulated and not yet populated by foreign companies Russian market allowed for such companies to thrive and prosper. Such companies, however, could not survive in the Russian market of today. Steepler closing down and the Dendy brand being gone altogether symbolized the dawn of a new era for the Russian consumer goods market and gaming industry. Soon after, in the early 2000s, Nintendo, Sega, Microsoft and Sony were all officially present on the Russian shelves, and the Russian gaming market had changed massively, but that's a topic for a whole different video. Dendy might be gone now, but it definitely was a massive cultural phenomenon and left massive impact on the culture of Russia. Dendy introduced the people of Russia to console gaming and sort of paved the way for official manufacturers to easily come to the Russian gaming market. Many people in their 30s and late 20s nowadays cherish Dendy as one of the greatest memories of their childhood. Moreover, the word Dendy itself in Russia has become synonymous with any 8-bit console or any NES clone, much like the word Xerox, or if you want to be really Russian, Xerox, is being used for every single photocopy machine. And yeah guys, that is pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed this little history lesson on the story of Russia's fake console called Dendy. Make sure to share any of your epic gamer stories in the comments below and smash the like button for more videos like this. If you want to support me and my channel for me to make more videos, please consider supporting my Patreon at patreon.com/nofocus. Thank you so much for watching this video everybody, and peace.